Love it or list it. If you're anything like us, you probably indulge in a little guilty pleasure reality TV from time to time. So most of you have probably heard of the popular HGTV show, Love It or List It. The basic premise is a designer comes into someone's existing home and they completely renovate it, turn it around. Meanwhile, a realtor is going to take these folks out and show them some different options. At the end of the show, they need to decide, do they want to love their existing home or do they want to list it? So in the real world, choosing whether to buy or sell is a much more life-changing decision than something that should be decided in a 30-minute time span. So this morning, we are going to talk about Love It or List It, and we're going to give you the rundown on several different scenarios and hopefully help you decide whether it's time to sell, refinance, or stay put in your current home.
Okay, welcome to Breakfast with Bev. I am Bev Curtis with Bev & Company here at House of Brokers Realty, and I am with Marla Portra. She's our client care manager here at our Bev & Co team and does a very fine job. And so she's going to pose some scenarios, and I'm going to give you my thoughts this morning on what I think might be a good option. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about this.
All right, so scenario number one.
Okay, let's roll.
All right, so you're paying PMI.
Okay.
Okay, so what would you do in that scenario?
Okay, so first of all, PMI is private mortgage insurance, and a lender is going to require that if you have less than 20% equity in the property. So in my opinion, if you don't have 20% down, then you probably need to stay put and pay that down until you get to the 20% equity mark. And once you get there, then I would definitely refinance and get that PMI removed, because PMI is added to your monthly payment. It's not a tax deductible item, and it's something that could free up your monthly budget once that's removed, so you could do other fun things to the house or just in life in general.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so scenario number two.
Okay.
You've suddenly noticed 100 different things that you dislike about your home.
Okay, so once you buy your home, you have to keep in mind there's kind of the honeymoon phase after you purchase your home. You have this emotional tie to it. You looked at hopefully several homes or many homes, and you fell in love with this particular house. Now you're getting settled into your daily routine, and you're starting to live with maybe a few little quirks that you revealed after you moved in, or something that kind of annoys you. What do you do then? So at this point in time, you can, depending on how long you've been there and where your equity position is, you could stay put and actually address those little items that kind of bug you, and maybe do a few remodeling things and correct those items and hopefully gain a little bit of equity in doing so. Or if you're in a good equity position, you've been there long enough to make sense, you could sell, go at it again, and find that next special home.
Absolutely. So scenario number three, you've just made a big major investment.
Okay, so maybe you just did a big kitchen remodel. Kitchens and bathrooms, as we're well aware, add the most value to your home as far as improvements, but it's also a big sink-in cost as far as how much money do I have in the property. Or maybe you just bought into a new business, or maybe you just took a chunk of money and you paid off some kind of debt. If you're kind of in that position, I think I would stay put, because once you made a big investment in something, you need to get settled in on that investment, get back to your comfort level, get your nest egg built back up, and then continue forward and assess it at a later date.
Scenario number four.
Okay.
You've got debt, but you may also have some equity built in your home. What would you do?
Okay, so this is probably where if you have debt and you have equity, you need to find out if you really do have equity and how much. Because you could have had equity last year, but the market could have changed and maybe the equity position is not the same this year. So what I would do in that particular case is I would talk to a lender to talk about possibly refinancing. You could refinance, do a little cash out and pay off that debt, get yourself in a better position on a monthly basis as far as your obligations. You could possibly do a home equity line of credit where you could borrow against that equity and basically pay off those things that have a higher interest rate. Doesn't necessarily mean to sell, in my opinion, because Once you sell, you may not get exactly what you thought you were going to get, depending on how the market goes. And once you get some of that debt cleaned up or all cleaned up, where does that put you then as far as trying to get back in a home again? Does that deplete your down payment? Do you have to go to renting? So I think in that case, talking to a realtor, talking to a lender, and thinking about a refinance option, especially if you have a low interest rate. Okay?
Scenario number 5.
All right.
You just really can't stand your neighborhood anymore.
Or the neighbors.
Or the neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes it's not just the neighborhood. Maybe it's just, okay, I have this annoying neighbor that as soon as I get home, I just want to hit my garage door and hit it down, and I just don't want to go outside and see them. Okay, so that's a toughie, because here's the thing when you're buying a home. I think you need to drive around at different hours of the day. Morning, noon, night, weekends, and just kind of peruse the neighborhood and just see what the environment is like. Because when you buy a home, you are buying into the lifestyle of that neighborhood. And there are things that are within your control, things that are not within your control. You can control what's on your own turf, but you can't control what the neighbor does, or maybe they leave the trash out too early, or maybe they have a dog that they don't pick up after, or whatever the case might be. Many times that is a sign that if you are outgrowing your neighborhood, it's time to sell, so long as it's financially feasible.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah, you might think it's really convenient to be, living next door to a school, but that might kind of slow down your morning commute. So
It could, especially if there's lots of cars in front of the way,
Yeah.
picking up, dropping off. I mean, it's all part of life and it all happens. You just have to decide where are you in your lifestyle and your time in life, if that's something that works for you or not.
Yeah. Okay, so here's our last scenario, number 6.
Okay?
You've just run out of space. Maybe you've outgrown your current home.
Okay, so that kind of depends on a couple factors, in my opinion. And that would be are you in a neighborhood that warrants you to actually do an addition to your home? Sometimes if you're in a neighborhood where if you do an addition to your home to add more space, even though you love your neighbors, you love your neighborhood, you love your home, you just need more room, it may not be cost effective for you to do an addition, because nobody wants to be the king of the mountain in their home and build too much and then not be able to get your return back. So let's say, for instance, if you're on a slab home and you're kind of busting at the seams, it's probably time to sell. It probably makes more financial sense to step up to a walkout basement perhaps, or a larger slab, or maybe you just have a 2-car with a slab and maybe you just need a 3-car with a slab to go with your extra items. Depending on your space needs, more than likely it's probably best to sell. If you're in a neighborhood that warrants doing an addition and other homes in the neighborhood support the value, then it's quite possible to do your homework and actually do an addition. Just know when you do an addition and do a big investment like that, you do need to think about living there long term in order to make it worth your while, gain your equity, and recoup your initial sink-in costs.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so
Those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun. So everybody has a little bit of a different scenario. These are just some common ones. So if you find yourself not quite fitting into one of these check boxes, let us know. That's what we're here for.
That's exactly right. So here at Bev & Company, we are a full-service team. We're here to provide you with all of your real estate needs. So if you have any questions, whether you should stay, whether you should go, should you refinance, give us a call today at Bev & Company here at House of Brokers Realty, Inc., and we'll be more than happy to give you top-notch service. Thanks for joining in, guys. Hope you have a very happy Wednesday.